Finger vibrato is a very important thing in playing any kind of modern electric guitar, in fact, not just blues. It's been called the signature, the fingerprint of guitarist, and very often you can tell who a guitarist is by the vibrato. There's certain very obvious ones like Freeze Paul Kossoff, the late Paul Kossoff. Now he had this thing where he would play really. I can't do it. You need really strong fingers and very heavy strings to do it. But you'd recognise Kossoff's playing by this almost strangulated vibrato. It was really heavy and hard. Jimi Hendrix had a very fluid vibrato. He would go nice and relaxed kind of playing. Other people like Clapton, Eric Clapton. That's kind of more old style blues breakers, Clapton. Anyway, vibrato is very important whether it becomes your signature or not. It allows you to express the notes you're playing a bit better, to play something. Nothing wrong with those notes exactly, but they don't exactly brim with life, do they? So if you were to actually you can add vibrato to non-bent notes or to bent notes, like this. That's a non-bent note. Or bent note. One thing I would say is you don't want to put vibrato on every note. Use it sparingly. Use it as something to beautify the note. So you don't want every note looking beautiful, otherwise they all then look the same. For instance, what I always say is your playing should be like a vocalist. Now, you listen to a great vocalist. Think of, the guy who's often talked about as the best vocalist of all time, Frank Sinatra. Frank Sinatra didn't stick vocal vibrato, on every note he sang. What he'd usually do is sing the notes fairly straight, but when he got to the last note of the line, he would tease some vibrato out of it to make the notes suddenly come to life. So rather than going... which, again, is about as musically satisfying as... why not go... The vibrato is then being used to finish the note off, make it sound nice, beautify it, add some character to it, add some expression to it. So too much expression actually ends up being no expression because everything's flat. You want to use your techniques to raise and lower the level of the dynamics. So you don't want everything to be full volume, you don't want everything to be vibrato, you don't want every note to be bent. So you need to learn to use these things that we're getting under our fingers here in some kind of sense. You don't want to be going at everything all the time. So again. String bending, people often say, how do you string bend? Do you pull the string down or push it up? Sounds pretty similar. I see, you come to a point there where there's a very good reason why you don't bend those strings down or don't pull them down. Come off the edge of the neck. You certainly can't do this one, the top string. It's falling off the end of the neck. So you have to bend that one up. You sort of have to bend that one up too. You can give it a bit of a but you wouldn't use that very often. So essentially, usually, push them up. This one you can go either way. A lot of people actually like, there is a slight difference in sound. What you can do there, you can actually use both fingers to pull it back really quite hard. You can do it that way, but you've got to start really shaking the guitar to get that kind of effect. It's very hard to know. Some people say vibrato should be in time with the beat of the music. So if the beat's going like that, your vibrato should be sections of that. So da 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 da. So, but I don't actually agree that that's right. I think possibly in metal styles or certain rock styles, I think that does apply because the music is much more metronomic. It's much more evenly spaced. The notes have to be perfectly played rather than, in fact, what we try and do is actually add some sleaze into what we're doing and actually not make every note played perfectly, or it hasn't got to be like an absolutely beautiful, pristine thing every time. We want the overall effect to be beautiful and striking and terrifying and making you want to cry or scream or whatever. But the individual notes, you can do kind of with them what you like. So I would say that you probably find you don't even think about the beat when you're doing a vibrato. It's something that happens. I definitely don't, myself, I don't think of the timing of it. So if something's going in that kind of thing, and you might find, if you analyse that was arithmetically correct, but I don't think of it like that. I would suspect that what happens is your body rhythms while you're playing, the whole of your body is telling yourself that you're in this rhythm. And in fact, that's another very important thing when you get on to be a better player, when you get on to playing standing up or playing in a band or, heaven forbid, doing sessions when you're in a studio. Timing is so crucial. And I was talking to a guitarist the other day, and he said, in fact, it was a wonderful, wonderful guitarist, Tommy Emmanuel. He's not a blues player, he's an Australian acoustic guitarist, and he's absolutely fantastic. Now, he said one thing to me, he said, timing is the most important thing of all. It's very easy when you're playing fast to get ahead of the beat or behind the beat, ahead of it usually, because you get a bit too excited. What Tommy said to me, he said, when he was a kid, his mother used to, when I say kid, I mean 3 years old, his mother had this big old washing machine. And from a very, very tiny age, as soon as the washing machine went on, he'd go and stand by it and he'd dance in time with the washing machine. He didn't know why he was doing it, and he didn't even know he did it till she told him quite recently. But when you're playing, it's really best to get your body going with the rhythm. I was doing a session once and I had to do something very simple. It was like a status quo rhythm. And I was sat down like I am now, and I couldn't do it. I was out of time, it was really, really bad, and the producer stopped the session. He said, "Neville, can I just give you a tip?" It was my first session, by the way. He said, "When you're playing, can you rock on the chair in time with what you're doing? Because your whole body will then get into it and your timing will be natural because your whole body is in time with the song." That's why you often see people when they're playing on stage. Gary Moore, for instance, is always moving around. Hendrix was always doing that. Stevie Wonder, when he plays the piano, is moving around in time with the music. It locks your whole body and your mind and your guitar in time with the music. It's really important. It might seem something that at this point in your playing isn't particularly relevant, but I hope in a few years' time you remember it and say, "Oh yeah, he was right, that old bloke." So really, really do that. It's very important. I'm not going to rock in my chair now because not only will I look probably stupid, but I'll probably go out of shot. Right, where were we? Vibrato. Again, with like string bending, you don't want to be doing vibrato like that. It's horrible. Your finger hasn't got the strength to deal with the string. But like I say, there's no strength in the finger that way. Again, hold it sideways at an angle so you're using the finger's own strength. So hold it, you can't hold it literally sideways, but hold it at an angle like that. A very interesting thing about about bending. When you play a flat note and you put vibrato on it, you can only raise the pitch because the string is taut, the string is at its maximum tension. So you can't bend that string down to there or put vibrato on it so that the note goes da. You can only go da, da. So essentially you're raising the note above its pitch and relaxing it back onto its pitch. That's with a flat note. Now when you bend a note, you can actually bend it. You can bend above the pitch and below it. It's one of those things, again, it's like the actual timing of the vibrato, that you don't probably know whether you're doing it that way or not, but I'm just letting you know that you can actually vibrato above and below the note. So there's millions of ways to do vibrato. Gary Moore has a thing that he likes to do, where a lot of his notes, he'll bend the note, then put the vibrato on afterwards. It's a way of it's teasing you. It's like you're thinking, oh, is the vibrato coming? There should be vibrato. And then there it comes, and it kind of satisfies your ears longing to hear it. Other people do it straight away. Albert Collins, a great, fabulous blues guitarist, he's sadly dead now as well, he would do like really intense vibrato. That was all part of his playing. They called him the Iceman because he used a Fender Telecaster and made it a sound that cut your head off. It was so really sharp. But you basically, the vibrato, like I said when I started this section, it can be your signature. Now you might find that because you've got particularly strong fingers, you might have particularly weak fingers, you might use really light strings, you might use really heavy strings, and the way your own hands interact with your guitar, the way it's set up, the kind of strings you have, you might find that you develop a vibrato that's never been heard before, and that will become your signature vibrato. B.B. King has a very interesting vibrato. He reckons he invented finger vibrato because he wanted to get the sound of, I think his cousin, Booker White, played harmonica or slide guitar. Sorry, excuse me if I'm historically incorrect, but he was trying to emulate another instrument. So he developed this style of vibrato by rotating his hand like that. That's how he does it. Other people, you watch Eric Clapton. Eric Clapton kind of does this thing where he kind of pushes his whole hand is kind of going up and down with the guitar, with the string. It's quite a heavy thing. Didn't used to play like that. This is kind of a more recent thing. My own style is quite, it's not very obvious to see. I'm not very intense with it. I like to have a nice strong vibrato because I think it's important. As I say, it's your signature. It shows that I think a good vibrato shows you're in command, in control. And it's the first thing you want to be as somebody who's learning to play the guitar. You want to get to the stage where you're in control of the guitar and it sounds to your audience, whether that's your mother and brother or sister or whatever, or your first pub audience or whatever. You want them to think you're in control of the guitar, not the guitar's in control of you and you don't quite know what you're doing. And all these things like string bending and vibrato will allow you to do that. So play a little bit with some different kinds of vibratos. You notice some of what I was playing there sounded much more rock because the more intense you get with it and the more you use vibrato, the more notes in the sequence that you put vibrato on, you tend to sound more rock. So if you want to sound more rock, be a bit more aggressive with the vibrato and put it on more notes. If you want to sound more blues, or perhaps even more jazz, you want to lighten up on the number of notes you put it on. Jazz players hardly use vibrato at all. But somebody like Martin Taylor, wonderful, wonderful guitar player, He will occasionally shock you by sticking the vibrato on. Alan Holdsworth, marvellous, marvellous player, doesn't usually use it. Every so often, there'll be a little string bend, little vibrato, and you think, oh, that's very nice. So it's like knowing when to use it. And if you're playing blues, you need a fair bit of it. You need to do it well with control, but you don't want it splattered all over everything because it becomes rock.